Coming to you live from the offices of Chapter One Films in Charlotte, North Carolina, this is the 4D Podcast with your hosts, Nathanael Levinson, Greg Prinz, and Liam Maxwell. A new dimension in entertainment. This is the 4D Podcast.
What's going on, guys?
We're back.
It's been a while.
Yeah, we're so back.
It's been exactly
It's
2
been
weeks.
exactly 2 weeks.
We're back again.
We're back exactly on schedule.
Consistency?
Yeah.
I think so.
That's what we're about.
Man.
When I think our podcast, I think
Consistent.
at least they're consistent.
Yeah,
Right now they have nothing else.
Is that what
But
you
they are
think about our
consistent.
podcast?
Yep, that's
I
the
don't want
first
to
word
ask
that comes to
Evan
mind.
what he thinks about our podcast because he didn't even know like it was a video podcast.
He's not subscribed.
I brought
first
him
of all,
in.
I hate to call him out, but he's not subscribed to the channel, and he's sitting here in the studio. He said, "We'll see how this episode goes."
He came in and he's like, "All right, I got like 20 minutes for you." I was like, "Oh, dude, I mean, this is like we're a big deal, man."
It's like 4 people watching this right now, and you're letting all of them down.
Well, hey, we're super excited that you're joining us. If you are watching and you're like, hey, why can't I not chat and yell at these people? It's because you got to
You gotta
subscribe. Hit
subscribe.
that subscribe button.
That's how we get you.
Get in the chat. We'd love
See,
to talk to you. We interact with you during the show.
You don't understand. That's the real play. The real play is to get people so angry that they're like, I just have to yell at this person.
Yes.
Oh, got to subscribe to do it. We got
I
you.
wonder if
It's
there's.
easy. It's easy.
I wish there was another way, like another thing that you could get so angry and remove subscribers, and then you would also be allowed to talk, and then, just to see what would happen if that was the case.
Yeah, we have to be more controversial.
I mean, apparently, us saying that. Well, you know what? We got to bring it back up again.
Well, yeah, it's been a while since
Our
we brought this up.
controversial. Yeah,
We got some good
Evan,
reach.
Our
from that.
controversy is
We've had
Uh,
one big piece of controversy on this show,
which is
and-
Greg saying Emma Watson's not hot
which was
because he's a misogynist.
which was me saying that Emma Watson didn't really work as Belle.
It was a little more blunt than that.
Yes, directly because I thought that Belle should have been more stunning, and Emma Watson just kind of came
I'll have
across
to
as
show you
really
the clip.
plain.
I'll have to show you the clip. But the problem is I
And-
got blamed for it because the camera's on me and I'm talking and I'm like, yeah, Emma Watson's just like, I feel like she's not. I think Greg says she's not hot, and then I get bullied
Yeah, Greg,
for it.
Greg
I get
clips it, and
cyberbullied.
Nathaniel gets cyberbullied for the
cyberbullied.
clip.
We had, there
Unbelievable.
was one comment that was like, "She's not hot. You, sir, look like a grown baby." Or something.
I'm like, okay, show me the baby with this beard, and I will accept your
Poor
your-
guy. He's taking ricochet shots.
But moral of the story is that I shared my controversial opinion. We got a bunch of views.
So
it
it
bounced
did
around
work.
quite a bit. It was like over
It did
2,000
work.
views.
So who are we saying is not hot in this movie? Kevin Spacey was so ugly.
well,
Well,
hey,
hey,
why don't-
I feel like we did pick a good one. If we're
If we're
trying to
looking
get
for
a little
controversy.
if we're looking for
controversial.
controversy,
Yeah. Speaking
We're
of
in
which,
the-
so we watched.
yeah, why don't you tell the people what we watched here, Nathaniel?
Well, we want to introduce our guest first.
yes, well, yeah. Well, what's
wanna
more
do it-
important,
which
the guest or the movie that we're watching?
Okay. Well, how about we do it like this? All right. So we watched American Beauty,
American Beauty.
1999. Kevin Spacey, some other people whose names I don't remember,
Yeah.
and it was given to us by
Chris Cooper.
Evan Feliciano. Evan, you are a father of 2. Please explain yourself. This movie.
Evan, tell us a little bit
once
about
again,
yourself.
once
We're
again,
happy
we,
you're
once again,
here.
we need the police light where I can just throw it in your face. Like, what was this movie? Why?
We
Why?
haven't got. Don't get
Why?
into your
Yeah,
opinions
we're
on
already-
it
Getting
yet.
into my
we're
opinion.
already- we're
I'm
off
just
the
asking the
rip.
question.
I mean,
Let the man introduce
let me
himself.
get this
Into
movie.
it. I mean, I don't have much to say. I mean, I'm Evan. I'm friends with all y'all. That's why I'm here. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Big,
no,
long time viewer of the show, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, soon to be.
Soon to be
but,
long-time viewer of the show.
Yeah, I feel like. Yeah, I'm not going on tour anytime soon, so I can't plug any dates.
Are your kids watching at home? Are they tuned in? Is it on the big screen?
Is Marla
One-
watching?
One is in bed right now. The other one is the in-laws are probably rocking to sleep. So
So no,
This
there's
is
2
a-
viewers down.
yeah, we'll get those numbers up though.
well, Evan is a good friend of. You kind of know all of us, but Nathaniel and I met you through church a few years back,
Yeah.
and we became fast friends, and we watched mini a movie together.
And you have
we've had-
unique tastes.
We've
shall
had
we say?
no, he's got fine taste. They're just
The way he said that was so patronizing.
Maybe that's actually a good way to introduce myself. I do feel like I have pretty strong feelings about a lot of movies, I would say. I wouldn't say I have like. I would say like I tend to in general like come off like a snob in terms of like liking certain things and certain hobbies, and I feel like that'll probably come across even if you've seen the movie. You probably think like, okay, like this, like the kind of person who picks American Beauty. And I won't deny. I mean, I don't think I'm an actual snob, but.
no. Evan's actually an awesome dude. I'll speak to it. Like one of the first times we watched a movie together. This is what made me be such a big fan of you, Evan. Is that I was overhyped. I mean, I just kept hyping up one of my favorite movies to show people, which is Standoff at Sparrow Creek. And I'm like, oh, you guys are gonna love this, whatever. And then I was thinking while I'm showing all my friends this movie that I'm like, man, I've overhyped these poor people. Like they're not gonna have anything to say other than it was really good because it. And right off the bat, Evan's like, nah, it was all right. And I'm like, yes. And I loved it because that made that's the kind of person I want to watch movies with because that's interesting. And then it's happened in other movies too. We watch Finding Neverland, and afterwards you're like, nah, stupid. and we were Liam was there. Yeah, Liam. It was. But anyway, so we're really glad to have you here. If you guys didn't know, by the thumbnail, by us talking about it, by us literally writing it
By the belly button
episode,
on the screen.
we are talking about American Beauty. This movie came out in 1992, I believe.
99. I already said that.
99. It came out in 1999, I believe, and won Best Picture.
Yeah, sure did.
It is a controversial
You
movie.
came out in 1992.
Yes, it's true.
Into the world.
For a lot of reasons.
Actually, that's relevant to this movie.
But
Coming out thing.
it is an acclaimed movie. It was definitely acclaimed at the time. Has gotten some kickback for things that we will discuss.
I think it won 5.
5, yeah.
Yeah,
Oscars?
it won
Yep.
picture, actor, director, adapted screenplay, at least.
Yeah.
Maybe
So it
more.
was a book first.
That's 4. That's the bit. It's
Well,
2,
was it
4 of the
really a
big
book?
ones.
It's not.
Adapted
It wasn't an
screenplay,
adapted
was it a play?
screenplay.
No, I don't.
It was like a play
Really?
prior to a movie.
I
Yeah,
knew
it
he was
adapted.
originally writing it to be a play, but I don't think that it.
I'm pretty confident it won adapted screenplay.
I'm gonna just
the
look
Oscars.
it up.
You know, again, we can look this up
Yeah.
really quick.
Hey, half-ass research, man. This is my job for the
is.
podcast.
This is
So even if I'm wrong, Evan,
No.
don't even say it because they're gonna fire me.
Come on, Greg. This is your job. You literally did this last
I
few
don't
weeks ago.
have.
I got it.
Somehow
All
it
over.
got lost. The
Wow.
half-ass research button.
Never mind.
lost.
It was original screenplay.
Okay, there we
That's
go.
just- It's the opposite. The exact
Attaboy.
opposite of adapted screenplay.
The confidence that I exuded.
Literally made all
everyone
these-
believed me.
Literally 100% wrong.
So it won a lot of awards, none of which were Best Adapted Screenplay. But for some of us, we were watching it for the first time. For some of us, we were watching it for the first time in a long time.
What? Wait, actually,
Yeah.
I want to know who has seen it.
I had
Or-
never seen
We
it.
all watched
I'd seen it before.
obviously.
I watched it for the first time actually this year, recently.
Oh, earlier this year?
Earlier this year was the first time, so this is my second time watching.
Just curious, how did you get introduced to it?
Well, it is very acclaimed.
Yeah.
A
But
lot
I feel
of
like it's not really that
well,
popular.
I will say, like a lot of times when I'm looking at movies to watch, I'll go off like IMDb score.
Oh, does
this
it,
one
does
is
it
up
have
there.
Oh, is it really?
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of
Oh, no,
surprised.
this one's like
I mean,
up there on the scale.
It's definitely like it's stuff that
Definitely feels like an Oscar bait movie.
yeah,
it's
totally.
stuff that Hollywood would just.
yeah, eats it up. Yeah, no, it's like the top 100 ranked movies of all time.
Yeah,
Really?
it's- Well,
Yes.
according to some people,
According to IMDb.
I was
it
gonna-
is. It has
because-
become more polarizing as of late. But yes,
Right.
I will say the only thing I knew about this movie going into it was that cover with the stomach with the rose.
Right, yeah,
For
you
some
told me
reason,
that.
I knew like that image was in my
yeah,
head.
Yeah, same.
Really?
But I knew nothing about the movie.
Yeah, so Nathanael watched it for the very first time. I
Today.
had seen it once a long time ago. It was like my pre-enlightenment video phase where it was like before I got into working in film,
okay.
and now it was the first time I'd watched it since then. So I mean, it might have been 10 years since I
Right,
watched
right.
it. So definitely a whole new kind of view on it and a deeper understanding. But anyway, so past all that nonsense, Liam, why don't you tell us what you thought about this movie, man?
Boy, do you want me to get right into my opinion, or do you want me to do the synopsis?
How about we give a quick
Spoiler free or spoilers?
Evan, why don't you do it? Why don't you, Evan,
Yeah.
just give us a quick like run through of what this movie is. Like, just give a quick synopsis of the movie.
Explain this movie.
Like, no, you don't have to get into the details of it. Just be like,
Just like the
Just like
actual
the
story.
yeah, the storyline, so the
So-
audience can bring it.
The abstract.
Right. So the story follows a middle-aged man named Lester who basically is the typical suburban husband. I think it takes place in like the early 90s maybe.
He had a Walkman, so that tracks.
Right. So it follows him and his journey through, I guess, what you would maybe call like a midlife crisis / awakening, and his family and his neighbors around him, and basically all their storylines kind of converge to kind of like a culminating point at the end. But I mean that's like the super high level synopsis.
That's fine. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a pretty good. Yeah, it's a
Pretty good spoiler-free
Right.
synopsis.
And that's
I mean, the only other
that's
thing
And the
that I
thing
think
is,
you
like,
version.
it's 25-year-old movie, so do we want to, at some point, discuss the actual ending, which will veer heavily into spoiler territory?
Oh,
Yes, of course
oh,
we do.
I
They've
feel like
had
we have
plenty
to.
of
we're
time.
gonna talk about.
We're gonna have to
okay,
talk
no.
about
it. Yeah, that's
Well,
gotta
I
be.
will
Just give a
say
spoiler warning
there's
before we
it's
do
not
that.
even a spoiler warning. The very first line of the movie
Oh,
is
yeah,
him
that's
saying,
true.
I die in like 2 days or whatever the case is. So
Well,
the movie starts
he
off with
says,
him
I'll
telling
be
the
dead at the end of the year.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's like, this is my last year. I'll be dead. Somebody's gonna kill me. And then you get into this movie. So that's how he starts the movie off. He's self-narrating.
Which is such an amazing way to start the movie. I feel like
well, that was one of my questions. So and maybe this is what we should start
I
off
guess they do kind of set up that the 3 possible people it could be, and then they reveal it.
with.
at the
See,
end.
that's and again, this is I'll throw the question out there. So this movie starts off in a very strange way. You get Kevin Spacey coming on. He obviously introduces himself, and you know him to be the main character now. And he says, "I'm so and so. This
Actually,
is where I live."
doesn't the video part happen before that?
yeah,
That's true.
with the
That's
girl.
true.
Actually,
There's a weird little
yeah.
So
found
the
footage
very
video
opening
clip.
is like a like a camcorder recording of his daughter and
And her-
currently unidentified male voice.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, I hate my dad. Yeah, which someone would just put him out of his misery." And he says, "Do you want me to kill your dad?" And
she goes,
says,
"Yes."
Yeah.
And then
And then it cuts to-
Then it cuts to
he
his
comes
opening
on
monologue.
and he says, I'll be dead soon. And then he just kind of takes you through the movie. Like he narrates his way through the movie, essentially
Well-
up into his death.
well, they're really. I think there's only 3 monologues though. I think
Yeah, there's not a whole lot.
He does
There's
an opening
narration at the beginning and
monologue
at the end, and-
he has. I think there's one monologue in the middle.
Yeah.
When he kind of. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we want to get into it now, but I think it's not like he's narrating the whole time. It's like once at the beginning, once in the middle, and then once at the end.
Yeah.
It's not kind of like. Yeah, I guess that's what. Yeah, that's.
Yeah,
all
it's
I'd
not like
say.
a fully narrated.
Right.
So, in your opinion, having all seen this movie, me as well, do you think the movie would have been a little more interesting not knowing that ending was coming? And just the movie proceeding like normal. It starts with a found footage clip. It goes into him narrating his life, and you kind of watch the development of the movie, the development of the characters. Everything happens how it's supposed to happen, and then you see him get killed at the end. Is that a better movie than him giving it away at the beginning, or did it add something?
I think it added something. So you're saying
Think it
this
was
is your
better?
first watch?
Yeah, I'm saying
And
would
you-
it have been better? Because I think that's one of the I think that's
it's
a fair.
hard to say.
I think
don't know.
that's a fair
it-
critique.
well, because it's not intended to be like a mystery movie or a thriller movie. It's a drama.
Yeah.
So I think in the sense of that, it works. And the kind of the general through plot is he's miserable, and then he's trying to find his own happiness, and it seems to be working. And then it culminates in him ending up dead.
Yeah. I think
Right,
there's
so-
still the twist of who actually
Yeah.
kills him that is enough to like make the ending, even though you know he's going to die,
Yeah.
somewhat satisfying.
right.
I think it gripped me, the fact that he was like, I'm going to be dead within the year. I think that's a gripping thing. I can't say it would be better without that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I like the way it starts because I think it definitely draws you in. But throughout the movie, until you get near the end, you're really not ever thinking about
Yeah.
like, oh, like when's he
You
gonna
can-
die?
you kinda
not.
lose
Like
track,
it never,
right?
and like you probably don't even remember that until the end. Like I always forget he even says that at the beginning.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, and I think if anything, it adds that small level of suspense of like,
Right.
well, who's going to kill him? And you start to remember it later in the movie when you start to see the wife toting guns and things like that, and then you get to the scene where the daughter actually says that to boyfriend, oh, somebody should kill my dad, and then you're like, oh, we're getting closer to the end. I forgot he said he's going to die soon, and now you're thinking, well, who's it going to be? Who's going to be that kills him? And there's a little bit of a mystery there. So I think that is an interesting way to start a movie. I could understand the other side that says, who knows? Maybe if I would have just seen him die, because I mean, imagine he just dies out of nowhere at the end. I don't think anybody would have the right mind to think that would happen. I don't know. Like I wouldn't have seen that coming at all.
But I feel like
I mean, the events do kind of clearly show that something's going to happen.
Right, but isn't
the
it
lead
more
up to that.
shocking to not know that Kevin Spacey's going to get shot in the head at the end of the movie? Like, I feel like maybe it could have been better, but I don't know. I like the
one
way
of those
it
things
currently
where
happens.
it's hard to say whether,
Yeah.
because again, the intention was not necessarily like will he survive at the end?
right, like
It
mystery.
was what
How are
leads
we
up
gonna
to
get
this
this?
What
and
leads up to
why
it,
did it
yeah.
happen?
Right. Which I mean just leads to the overall strokes of the movie, and so we know that Evan likes this movie. I think I'd be interested to hear what Liam thinks, because I know that Nathaniel was
Should
not a
we
big
let-
fan of the movie.
Should we let Evan start?
Yeah. So Evan, tell us about just what are some of the things that make this movie a good movie? Like why bring it up? Like what
Yeah.
what are some of your favorite parts?
Why?
Well, I think first of all, I love the soundtrack. I think the soundtrack it's one of my favorite soundtracks. I think Thomas Newman just
Yeah.
does such a great job.
Any relation to Randy Newman or no?
No. So he does. He actually did Finding Nemo, and it's virtually some of the same songs in Finding Nemo. It's
Right.
crazy.
Has
It's-
American Beauty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
the main
I did
theme
think it was
is
weird
is
with
very
that one
it's
shot,
identical.
that one
Like, it's
shot of
crazy.
Dory with a rose across her fin. It's a little weird.
Well, so the soundtrack I think is one of my favorite aspects, because the movie's relatively short for how many characters.
It's 2 hours, like just I think.
Yeah,
2 hours
it's
exactly.
basically 2 hours flat. And for how there's only a few characters, but like you really get into the lives of these characters, and so there's not like really enough time for like serious character development for like all of the characters. Like
Right.
you get a lot on Lester and like his wife, but like I think the soundtrack really helps as well. That's one of my favorite parts. The second is just a lot of the like cinematography. I think is just really well done, and like as well as the acting. I just think like some of the best
Yeah.
acting in. I just think it's some of the best acting performances. And then
Who's the guy that played Ricky? His name is Ricky, right?
Yeah.
Wes.
Because
I've
in
definitely
reality,
seen him in
it's
other
like
things.
it's Kevin Spacey.
Wes Bentley.
Wes Bentley.
It's like
great.
I feel like for me remembering actors, I think obviously Kevin Spacey,
Mhm.
and then you have like Chris Cooper, who played a small role.
The wife plays a pretty significant
Yeah,
role.
The
Annette-
wife, yeah, the wife
Annette
does.
Bening.
Annette Bening.
She's phenomenal
Yeah.
in this.
Yeah, she like she's like scary accurate in that movie.
Yeah.
Like I'm like
Right.
I know people that are this woman. Like it's awful.
She's a nutcase.
But
Sorry,
yeah,
keep going.
and I think that's the third thing is I think it the film depicts like American suburbia in that time, and I think
Yeah.
it's such like I think it's hard for people to relate to now in some ways because the culture is so different, but it's such like a good time capsule of
Yeah.
what that period was like, I think, for a lot of families like across the US. And I think it's like its social narrative is really interesting, but then like the whole philosophical kind of like narrative around like beauty,
Right.
and like
Is it subjective? Kind of.
I guess it's almost like beauty and happiness, and like because I think ultimately like what the movie is about is just beauty. I think like it's kind of, to me it's kind of about like how how each different characters look at life and try and find happiness and beauty, and you kind of see what works and doesn't, and the whole kind of premise is Lester at the beginning describing himself as feeling dead inside, and then he says, but it's never too late to find it again, and then like so it's like about him finding happiness. And
how'd that work out for him?
Well, I think he finds it at the end. That's what I think is really interesting. Is like,
well, yeah, because he's like smiling.
I think
if
there was
brains are spilling.
If there was
onto the
one
table.
element of the movie, there's one element of the movie that I hinge on not understanding. It's definitely his ending as he's developing through that because like so. One of the the two main themes are identity and beauty, which is like it's exactly what you said. I mean, it's American Beauty, and I think the kind of primary one is jabbing at that time period to say, well, there's no one standard for how people should think about themselves or what they should find beautiful, and that's the interesting subject matter of the movie. Is that well, let's take a look at all these different characters and what they find beautiful, and are they living into that identity or not?
Well, I agree, but I almost feel like it's kind of in a way not it. What did you say that it's something?
Beauty and identity are the main two themes.
Yeah, but something about it being subjective because I almost feel like it's
definitely not like each character has a very different view. Like it's showing you that each character finds different things beautiful,
right?
And it's saying that the main problem isn't that everybody finds a bag floating in the wind beautiful and everybody should. That's not what the movie's saying.
Is that where they you ever feel like a plastic bag? Is that from that movie?
Katy Perry, yeah.
Yeah, is that did she watch that movie?
She had the
and then come
she
up with
wrote the
that song?
soundtrack for American Beauty.
She was just
involved
Well,
with
I
it.
don't think my guess is no, because isn't that the not beautiful thing?
No, that was when he says this is the most beautiful film.
I
I've
know,
ever taken, was the plastic bag film.
but in the
song.
Katy Perry song, that's like the not beautiful
Oh.
thing, and then she's like, "But you're actually a firework.
Yeah,
you're
you're
not
right.
a plastic bag."
Fun fact: the writer of this movie
saw a bag floating.
saw a bag floating. He's in like New York. I think World Trade Center complex or plaza or whatever.
Yep.
Saw a bag floating and was like, I'm going to write a movie. And it was American Beauty, which is like hard to believe, kind of, but I guess
That's the
everybody
most
draws
pretentious thing I've
inspiration
ever
from
heard.
something.
Right,
but
yeah.
And that's like
is
clearly
pretty
the
pretentious.
military son guy. What was his name?
Ricky.
Clearly, Ricky was the author insert,
Yeah.
and it's like that is
Well,
he was
yeah.
the quintessential like film snob.
Well, right, yeah.
It's so beautiful.
There's a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah.
like, there's a
I
lot of
can't.
like,
There's so much beauty, I just can't. That was a line.
So beautiful.
but I don't know. That is part of what makes me like okay. So to me, the reason this film is in my top 3 of all time is because
Wow.
because
It's a high spot.
when I
Gosh.
I would say this is like one of the this is
Can we get a hot take button for Evan?
Right,
Let's get a hot
No,
take button.
continue.
You said what?
you guys wanted controversy. So this is one of the few movies that I feel like I walk away from like truly looking at life differently. And I feel like it does make me want to see beauty in like I'm not going around looking for plastic bags, but like I truly think it does like it does like
Then you missed it.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
I think it does like make you think about like what you value, what you're taking for granted, and especially with like a family now, like or like even just like relationships. Like at the very end of the movie before he dies, like that's what he's coming back to. Is he like the last 2 things that he narrates are seeing his daughter and then his wife. And I just feel like that is like, I think like it's almost like there's that kind of like subjectivity of like what you find beautiful, but I feel like the film does kind of like
Well, I feel like the whole point of that was he's trying to pursue happiness through all these carnal things, but then at the end, after he's dead and he has that brief moment and goes to his happy moments, it's his relationships, his grandmother, his wife, his daughter.
Right.
yeah, and I think it's I think it's just before that he kind of like that he so for me I feel like his awakening moment is when he doesn't have sex with what's her name?
Angela.
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 And then I think
She's the
that
Chancellor of Germany.
I think it's a good move, not to have sex with a minor. So good for him.
I mean, she could have been
That was
18,
powerful.
but
She was
we don't
20
know.
while filming.
Right.
so-
Well, yeah, I mean-
she wasn't. She wasn't the problem.
Right.
Liam knows what I'm talking about.
What are you talking about, Spacey?
No, the other one. Do you guys know?
Oh,
do you guys
yeah,
know
yeah,
the controversy
yes,
behind
yes.
the other girl?
I don't know anything
She was
about
17
anything.
years old.
She
the
was
daughter was
barely 17.
Yeah.
Man. Okay, so I'm gonna interrupt with a quick story, and then we'll get back to it. Okay, so this girl. This is
The
this is
dot
what this-
Jane
So Jane,
Yes,
the
Jane.
girl
does
who
show her breasts in the
shows
movie.
her boobs, is she turned 17 on set, so she's a 16-year-old effectively. And so they're like, hey, this male director is like, hey, listen, I want you to take your clothes off. And she's like, well, 16, but I think I would like to. And they're like, well, let's talk to your parents, right? I'm making this as I mean, and so then they go to her parents. The parents are like, well, she can make this decision for herself. And the dad's like, oh, I want to be on set. No, it gets worse. All right,
I didn't know
so
this
then the dad is like, okay, like I want to be on set. I want to see this for the first time. So then he watches his daughter undress on set, and he's like, oh, it's okay. In the 70s, I was a porn star, and so there's a lot of me online naked. So it gives such an interesting light to this movie. Like when I watched that movie, I was
they
like,
were the real life American Beauty family.
it definitely makes me watch the movie, and I'm like,
I mean, you gotta separate the art from all the artists. I mean,
Especially because Kevin Spacey in it.
I mean,
we were already
but like,
having to do that.
I mean, is no one listening to Michael Jackson anymore?
no,
Like,
it's
Yeah,
not
I know.
about that.
I agree with
Right,
you.
Oh,
but
I'm
just saying,
100% not in the camp of canceling anybody. However,
still,
when there's a minor, a
right,
child on screen getting naked and I'm watching, I'm like, hey, maybe I shouldn't ever be watching this. Maybe I shouldn't
Yeah.
ever be like, but it's a movie. It's like she's 16 and like her parents,
You know what you
parents made
need?
her.
I'm sure that girl has
Structure
no
and
issues.
No.
growing up. Yeah.
Was it Angel Vid?
Angel.
You know what I'm talking about?
Wait,
No.
what
There's
do you-
like a Christian streaming service. It's called
Oh,
Angel
yeah.
something.
What about
where
Angel
they censor?
Studios
Yeah,
or something?
they'll do the streaming and then it like censors out all the titties.
Oh,
So it'll just, like, it'll just skip
and it, like,
those
cuts
scenes.
square words too, or something.
Yeah, I think you can like set it to different
But
things.
it's
you
important to the plot, though.
oh yeah.
No, but I
Removing some important
It was really
parts.
well. See, it was really important to the plot that the dad found Kevin Spacey working out naked and not 17-year-old titties. Because if we found that video, Kevin Spacey would still be alive. That's all I'm saying.
I will say, like, I don't feel like the nude scenes or the sexual scenes in the movie. I feel like they're done really well, though.
Except the one with the king, and her legs are like,
Oh,
she's like clearly not a real person over there.
right. There's definitely some like.
I was laughing at that.
I think the
That's
scenes
pretty
with the
funny.
roses with Angela are.
those are intentionally like overly
Yeah, I
artistic.
think those are well
like
done. I
that's-
actually
see,
thought those are fun.
I don't even. I wasn't even thinking about those. I was thinking of like.
There's two primary. I mean, you would call them two nude scenes, right? The one where whatever
Jane undresses in the
Jane
window.
undresses in the window, and the other one where he's about to have sex with
Angela.
Angela.
Which, yeah.
Which doesn't manifest, but it is weird seeing Kevin Spacey undress a young.
Yeah. And like his massive hand just like slowly. Yeah, I was like,
But I think, but even in that scene, like I feel like she does such a good job because you can see her like her chest is like
yeah,
she looks so nervous. Like it's not like you're like.
It's
Well,
well
that
acted,
was
for
one of the
sure.
big twists was that she was just putting on a front the whole
Right.
time.
Yeah.
Right.
But that like and that's the whole point of the movie, right?
Yeah.
The whole the main message of the movie, right? And we'll talk about character. We'll keep talking about characters before we get into the story. But like the main message of the movie being, hey, we want the purpose of this movie to be talking about what you find beautiful is important to you, and the only way that things aren't going well for you, that you're not one of the productive characters, you're one of the negative characters, is if you're not actually living into that identity, right? Because
But
like
I don't think that's what it is.
well,
Though.
no, Chris Cooper, I don't forget his character's name, the dad of Ricky, is the prime
Angry
example.
Arnold dad.
Colonel Fitz.
Is the prime example of the antithesis, like the opposite of that, right? He is not living into his identity because he's a gay guy who comes across like he
Aggressively homophobic.
aggressively
Yeah.
homophobic, and he is like, okay, well, this is what I find beautiful, but I'm going to live completely opposite to my identity. And then we have example of best friend being like, well, this is what I find beautiful. I find beautiful these girls that sleep around, and I want that to be my identity. But in reality, she's a virgin. She's never done anything with anybody, and so she's depicted as a negative character. Whereas Ricky is like, I know what I find beautiful: dead people and bags floating in the wind. And it's like, well, that's really weird. But in reality, he's enlightening what's her name, and so she slowly becomes less concerned about herself. And throughout the movie, she wears less and less makeup to kind of like show this transformation. And by the
I didn't
end,
notice that.
and by the it's mainly because in the first scene she looks like a clown, and I'm like, oh hey, well, like
How's goth?
I was
She
like,
looks
hey,
like
hey,
goth.
how's it going,
I
makeup?
feel like she's supposed to be. She's supposed to be.
But by the end, she's not, and he also enlightens everybody. You know, he lights everybody he meets. He meets with Kevin Spacey's character, and after that, Kevin Spacey's like, oh, you know what? This isn't what I find beautiful. Like the normal day in, day out of life is not what I find beautiful. I find 17-year-old girls beautiful. so he starts pursuing that, and I honestly I don't understand. Like, so it's like he realizes that if he was to sleep with this girl, that she would not be living into her true identity, that she's really wearing a mask, and so he's like, oh, that's not a good reason to do this. But it's
No,
it's
I
like,
don't think that's what it is.
Is that the reason? Because
No,
I can't
No,
find
I
him.
feel like it's like it's not just about beauty, but it's also about innocence. And he has been overhearing these conversations where she's talking like really filthy, saying like, "Oh yeah, I want to fuck your dad."
Yeah.
Right. And so he thinks that is this stereotypical slutty high schooler, and then he realizes, oh no, she's like my daughter.
Right.
I can't do this. That was his realization at the end of the movie. When he realizes she's a virgin, she's like, "Oh, this is someone's daughter. I can't do this."
But I also think it's just that it's like the chase is better than the catch, and like all these things, like he's gotten so much enjoyment from doing all of the things, like working out, and like he starts smoking weed, and like he's just he's like you imagine he's gonna keep doing all of those things like after, but he's not. You know, like whether or not he had sex with her, he was gonna do those things.
I think it was just she was just escapism to him. His life sucked. It was so mundane.
Right.
And this girl, like it could have been another girl. Like I don't think it was just this girl that could have brought him out of this funk. Like he was just so miserable that this was his avenue for just escapism.
Yeah, well, he has that awakening, if you want to call it, when they watch the cheerleading. Which was like the least sexy cheerleading.
Paula Abdul choreographed that dance.
They had like top hats. They had top hats.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, well, that's not sexy.
I was like, 1990.
Okay.
Hey,
Well, I
how's
mean,
it
I
going,
don't think it was-
1999?
Show me all
they're also high school now.
Hot tamale. But no, he has this awakening then, and then it becomes something. She becomes the object of his pursuit of like, if I want happiness, then I need to pursue these sorts of things, and this sexual relationship is what I perceive as giving me happiness. And then when he interacts with her, again, he's built her up as this, slutty girl who's just a high school, slutty high school girl. And he's like, that'll solve my problems. He's like, I've been in a coma, now I'm awake. And then he realizes, oh, she's doing the same thing I'm doing. She's chasing an unrealistic pursuit, and it's gonna end poorly for her. So I'm gonna break up.
But I don't think that I don't like when I look at Kevin Spacey in that film, or like Lester, I feel like there's like two sides of him, in that like there's the one side that if he were to kind of like have if he did follow through with that with like Angela, he wouldn't end up any better than his wife. But there's like the other side of him that's doing these other things, like working at the fast food place and like buying the car and quitting his job, that wouldn't impress her. Like he's also doing these other things that like those things are actually making him happy, and it's kind of like this dichotomy of like.
But what I don't get is like if you break that down, if you just do a specific character analysis on him, and we're not talking about the rest of the movie right now. So he goes from being a dad, being a husband, working a responsible job, to blackmailing his boss, smoking a bunch of weed, like pursuing a high school age girl. Okay, we can say he's working out, so maybe he's a little healthier. But out of all these things, you're not like, good for you, man. You're really nailing it.
No.
Well, no,
is that the message you come away with? Is that how I'm supposed to feel?
I feel like it's just like
he ended up dead at the end, so probably not.
But
I feel like
I don't know
it's
if that was the message. Like, I feel like the message of the movie was almost like, hey, like he kind of needed to do his thing. And I'm like, I don't see any of those as admirable traits. I'm not like,
No,
good
but
for
I don't
Lester.
think you're supposed to.
Yeah, but I think part of him is for sure supposed to be deplorable, but he's reflecting what's deplorable in some of the characters around him. That's but
no
what
doubt.
I think is
Everybody seems pretty rough in this movie.
But what I think is he escapes that at the end by not like falling into it. But and then also he truly appreciates, well, you know, after he dies, those little things in life, or like the big things, like his family, and you kind of imagine that, like. And I think one of my favorite scenes is at the end when he's talking to Angela in the kitchen, and he asks about Jane. Like, he wants to know, like,
Right.
like, how is she? Like, she won't talk to me. And then he just, after when Angela says, you know, she thinks she's in love, he just kind of like sits there and like smiles. Like, he's so happy for her. And I think like that is kind of like he's kind of he's real, like he stops caring about the stupid things in life that he's not supposed to care about, and like at the beginning of the movie, and that's what makes his character development exciting. But then you're not sure, is he gonna pursue Angela, or is he gonna pursue like actually finding like something good that's gonna make him happy? And like at the end, I think he kind of realizes, like, yeah, like I didn't need her to be happy. Like I have my family, and I have, you know, all these other different things, but I don't think it's just that he, I don't know. I guess it's more just that, like, I think what makes him like relatable, or like what's supposed to make the audience kind of drawn towards him is that he just doesn't care at the beginning. He doesn't care about the stupid things in life that like we all have to care about.
Right.
And I think there's something. I think like there's obviously a lot of similarities to like Fight Club, and like, you know, they came out in the same year, and you know, there's just a whole lot of parallels. But I think like that, like there's that kind of aspect of like down, like just, you know, it's very tame, but like down with the system.
Yeah.
The thing I struggle with though is I get the realization at the end that his daughter, like, he should have been caring more about his daughter, but like his relationship with his wife is done.
Yeah.
Like, there's no like looking at the photo and being like, man, I really screwed up. Like, it's time to focus on that.
It's
that's
like,
over. Like,
yeah,
that's over.
It's like,
so it's like I didn't know what to take away from like that relationship, because
well,
I don't see how he can look at that photo and be like, oh man, maybe I got to start caring about my family. Like, his family is done. Like, his wife has cheated on him. His wife hates him. His wife
almost
is like
had sex with and made out with his daughter's friend.
I'm not even like talking about like his arc. I'm
Yeah.
talking about like his wife sucked.
Oh yeah.
Like, straight up like sucked the whole movie. So I don't know if I had a hard time taking away like, oh man, he really blew it. Like, he should have been focused on his wife, when his wife was like shittier. Like,
Yeah.
I could not stand
Arguably
his wife,
worse
which I think is the
behaved than
point.
he
I think
was.
the point is that you don't like the wife. Like,
But-
she's not a likable
But
character.
that's like, this is part of my not so much of a fan of this movie, is that it paints everybody very quickly in a bad light, right? Like, he's walking to the car, he drops his stuff, and the wife is making fun of him, and the daughter is like, "Oh, could you be any more pathetic, Dad?" And it's very on the nose and kind of like you're just sitting there like, "Oh, I guess the movie has in a very non-creative way established that these people are a really bad family." Like, and I think maybe a more talented writer could have done that in a more not so just blatantly in your face way, but. So very quickly, you're like, okay, they're all mean to each other. The mom is like, hey, are you purposely trying to look ugly to her daughter? Well, you're like, what, Mom? Like, this is horrible. Yeah. So we've established this. And then we have Ricky, who is also, if we're being real, very inappropriate to be filming everybody, especially into people's, like, that is a crime. like it's not even like a cute, well, he finds it beautiful. Well, that literally,
Pretty
you'll
illegal.
go to jail for that, and that's really wrong. And people are in their underwear lots of times and naked in some of them. So, like, I
like how Kevin
think we
Spacey's
should-
using the window as a mirror. Like, get a damn mirror. Quit
Don't you
standing
know
naked in
people
front of
can
your
look
window.
through
Like,
you?
people are looking in your
You're
window.
asking for it.
Like, come on, man.
So it establishes these bad characters, but it introduces Ricky as kind of like the only one who sees things. Well, and there's one other couple that is living into their identity perfectly, which is the gay couple, right? This is the one. This is the one constant group of like these guys are normal and they are doing life right, and everybody else is kind of like they're the ones that are exercising. They introduce themselves to their new neighbors, and it's like, well, they're the representation of people who find something beautiful that the world doesn't, and they live into that identity, and so they're depicted as doing things well. And then you have Chris Cooper being the very opposite of this is what it looks like to be most unhealthy. And they do a good reveal at the end, right? Like that does catch you off guard, right? And it catches me off guard every time I watch it, where I'm like, okay, he's coming here, he's going to be angry, and then he kisses Kevin Spacey, and you can tell his indecisiveness with himself, and he's disgusted with himself, and he doesn't know what to do, and he runs away, and he ends up, coming back and killing him. And every character the movie wants you to say is, oh, the only reason they're all this bad is because they're not they have a false view of what beauty should be, and in reality, they should be finding out what they think is beautiful.
But I
don't like that. I don't think it's a good message.
I don't think that's what it is because I think the wife, she doesn't like. There's not that she is in some ways her authentic self of like she wants to make money like.
Her main theme, though, and she says it many times, is like you have to portray an image of excellence, regardless of what's going on inside, which is blatantly not living into the truth of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but I don't think that's the same as necessarily
like I think that's why she's unhealthy, right?
Oh no, absolutely, for sure, right.
Well, I think
also chat saying what message are you trying to send by wearing all black, guys?
This is gray.
it's gray.
Get your eyes checked. I feel like that.
Are you wearing black?
I'm wearing white.
Onyx, charcoal.
I'm living into my truth over here.
Does this look black to you too?
I'm a dark soul. I listen to punk rock and slasher metal. So. Evan, I think you made a great point earlier that I did wonder is maybe this movie was more impactful in the time period that it was released.
Definitely.
Because I think the concept of like an idyllic, from the outside looking in, family, suburban, like white picket fence, but hey, actually they're pretty messed up. That might have like hit a little harder back then.
For sure.
Where it's like now I feel like it's pretty understood that like
people want that.
People have issues like no matter what demographic they are. Like I think that's pretty understood. So I did wonder that is maybe in 1999 this was like a little bit more impactful.
Right.
Because the culture has changed so much since that time period that, So I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, no, I thought that was a great point too. And I think you see some of the evidences of that in that the movie, when it first came in, was hugely acclaimed. 5 Grammys. Oscars.
Grammys.
I don't know why.
Grammys. He said.
Grammys.
Gosh, what is he doing? Right there? He says Grammys.
Anyways,
the film guy, by the way.
His whole job is video.
And anyways, so it makes big noise when it comes in, but over time it has not actually tracked well with newer generations. Like it's not currently like you're saying, Evan, like you were surprised that it was such a big movie. It's because now it's not as much of a big movie. It's gone down in popularity big time. And I think you nailed it. Like it's because it does a really good job at depicting people of that time period watch a movie like this and are like, oh man, pretty much all we do is the mundane life things, and our lives are really boring. So this is interesting to us to be like, oh, maybe there's more to life that we're missing. Like we just keep going through the motions. We really care if there's beer that's spilled on the couch, and we want to present a good family image all the time.
If that's a $4,000 couch, I will eat my hat. That was an ugly ass couch.
Upholstered in
maybe just
Italian.
was just emotion just generally like repressed a little bit more back
for
then.
sure,
and now it's like for better or for worse.
But also it's
the
like you
emotions
have
are not
people
as
that are
repressed.
coming off the heels of a lot of different big wars, like generationally. And all of a sudden now there's this generation where, I mean, obviously there's tons of problems, but like for the most part, it's like, what are we doing? There's not really anything big going on. Like life is starting to slow down and get really normal. Okay, life is slowing down and getting really normal and kind of getting boring, and everything looks the same, and I'm going crazy. And so I think that generation, a movie like this, hits perfectly, right? Because you insert a character like Ricky into that situation where everybody looks really good on the outside, but in reality, and again, this is where I don't agree with the messaging of the movie, but it's like in reality, nobody's living into into what they actually find beautiful. Like, right? What is American beauty? Like, what do people in America find beautiful? Well, this is what it should look like. And Ricky's coming in and disrupting that and saying, no, you guys have got it all wrong. I think that dead people
Let's
in
be
bags
honest.
is beautiful.
The only American Beauty in that movie was the Firebird.
Was him? What was the song? He was like, American Woman.
Yeah.
It was like stoned.
Fully
Those
improv. Fully
Yeah,
improv
that whole scene was improv.
Those two scenes, with the one with him singing in his car when he's smoking and he's going to get fast food, that's a great scene. And then when
His wife is.
when she comes
what's her
through.
name? What is I can't remember her
man.
name.
The wife.
Carol.
Carol.
Carolyn.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
when she's like, I forget. I think she's like leaving after being with the king or something, and she's singing that. I think it's like Frank
Yeah.
Sinatra song. Like those
Yeah.
those like that just paints such a good picture. And I feel like, yeah, it is such a social narrative, and like society has just changed so much that it's
Yeah.
the film doesn't, like, a lot of people say the film hasn't aged well because of that, but I just feel like you have
But
to.
it's like you
had-
say, it's a time capsule.
right? You have to look at it like from that point of view, because like right now, like everyone's so encouraged, like, oh, just be, whatever you want to be. Beauty is inside, joy,
Right.
whatever. It, like, things couldn't have been more different
Right.
Yeah.
at that period of time.
Like that message, what like the thing that I keep talking about, like what I think he's trying to convey at that period of time is pretty radical. Like,
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
and,
my thoughts.
And I think you probably can at that time take very positive things from that idea. Maybe not as a, like we say now, almost like as a fire sale, like, hey, no, take all of it. Like, this is all
You
of
gotta
life.
live your
It's-
truth.
Yeah, it's all like it's
Right.
all about like if you like. I mean, it's basically we're watching what if American Beauty actually happened at that point of time, and then it changed Ricky changed the entire world, and now we're living in that world. So now we look at that message and we're going, no, that's lame. Don't do that.
But
Go back.
Ricky was the lucky one who
but-
got shot in the head.
but
Or
see-
no, who was it?
Lester.
Lester was the
Lester.
lucky one who
But
got shot in the head.
That's what I love about it, is that I think that the film tries to say, like, that beauty isn't subjective, in that like because you're following Lester, and it's so clear that him being with Angela is deplorable. Like that's part of showing, like, it's not just whatever you want. Like, there are things that are good, and when he dies,
You see, like I was looking
you
for that. in the movie.
you don't think, he doesn't think about, like, oh yeah, Angela's body or whatever. He thinks about his family and like his grandmother and like looking at the stars. Like,
But
it's
that's-
not just like,
See,
yeah,
like-
I loved, but like, because like sometimes in the movie he's like, yeah, when I was in college, like I worked at this fast food place and got laid, like it was great. But like really, that's not what he cared about. Because like when he dies, he talks about like looking at the stars and like, his family.
I guess for me, I find that odd though, because the movie depicts like the parts of the movie, even the ones that you said are like your favorite parts, and I agree. Like the most satisfying parts of the movie are when he's kind of just sticking it to that old life. Like we can all agree, like those are the fun parts of the movie. Is like you see Kevin Spacey going, hey, I'm gonna stop caring about all this stuff, and it's hysterical, right? And his wife is losing her mind because of it. He sees her at the fast food line where he's working
Oh,
there.
great.
It's
Great
amazing.
scene. Great scene.
And so it's like, well, you've made all the impactful things about this movie be him living the more deplorable life, and
But I don't think
you
they're-
showed him at the beginning. You showed him at the beginning being really unhappy, doing the dad thing, doing the husband thing, and it's like now all of a sudden at the end he sees a picture and he's like, oh, I really like this, and now he's dead, and I'm like, then I don't necessarily know if I get what the message is
But-
there for that part. The rest of the story makes sense. It's what I keep talking about. All the other characters act within the bounds of what I was saying, whereas they discover beauty through Ricky and they're enlightened. And you obviously you have the gay couple who exists as the example of this is what it looks like to live into what you find to be beautiful. And I mean, the idea of a rose being the thematic through line is that a rose is very beautiful, but it's kind of useless, right? Like you can't use it for practical things, but that's a kind of
I think the image of the rose is typically the rose is beautiful, but if you're not careful, it has thorns and it will make you bleed.
Right.
Well, and an American Beauty is a specific kind of rose that looks really good on the outside, and that when it dies from the inside out, and it rots on the inside. Which, again, all of it's kind of pointing to the idea that if you're not living into the identity of what you find beautiful, then you're going to start rotting. And you have the examples of those characters being really unhealthy. And I guess I'm just more confused how Lester fits into that overall narrative, because at the end, I think you're right. I think it does make some nod to him. Maybe like he should have recognized the whole time that you should not pursue the 17-year-old. Not like, but you're a virgin 17-year-old. Hold on a second, I've got a family here.
I think that's so. I think,
I don't know.
It's giving the movie the benefit of the doubt.
No, I want to hear your thoughts.
Coming from a person who I watched it and I was like, ew. Wasn't for me. It's not a movie for me. Wouldn't watch it again. I didn't find it to be particularly profound. It was well shot, good music, well acted.
Good acting.
Can't deny him.
No,
Very well
Kevin
acted.
Spacey's phenomenal.
He's awesome.
But yeah, not for me.
But give it the benefit of the doubt. What were you going to say?
Give the benefit of the doubt. I think that might be the point, is that, you know, he's seeing that his life is miserable, so he's pursuing his American beauty, but it's actually all rotten. Like, all that stuff he's doing is all rotten, and then it's not until he dies that he actually realizes what the true beauty was, which was his family, you know, the stars.
But why was it her saying? See, this is why
That's what broke the spell for him. That's what snapped him out of it. It was him saying he's a virgin. I think it's because
I don't think that tracks.
But
very
well.
well.
I don't think that what you were saying about like him sticking it to the man. Like I don't think the things he was doing throughout the movie were all deplorable. Like I think a lot of the stuff he was doing was good. Like when he's like
other than working out, if you're a father and a husband, what about those things is a good thing?
It's more just like his perspective on life. When he's like, this isn't life, it's just a couch. Like that,
Right.
like that is like that's
Sure.
him. It's just him shifting his perspective. And I think part of the movie is like his like the movie is about his journey to that kind of like I don't think he's. It's kind of like that like he's kind of like awakened, but he's still confused throughout the whole movie.
But like this is my point though. Like, shouldn't a journey be going towards him like being a better dad, being a better husband?
But that's not how life is, though. Life's not like linear. Like
well, sure.
Well, temporarily it is.
Sure.
Well, in some ways, but like the story arcs of our lives aren't like.
Yes, but
like,
a character arc generally is like a character is living a certain way.
A character arc. An arc by definition is not linear, Greg.
I
just throwing out
I
geometry
did
fact
not
for you.
say linear. Anyways, so in general, it's like a character is thrust into a situation. So now Lester decides, hey, I don't want to live this suburban lifestyle anymore. So this is the beginning of his arc. He makes a lot of mistakes, realizes it's not good, and then his arc finishes with him having grown out of that situation. Whereas this one, the entire movie is him growing and again, I think the movie wants you to think that he's a more healthy person now. I
think he is.
That's why.
Arguably,
I think he's almost like delusional.
Arguably, at the end of the movie,
Like,
he's the least healthy he's ever been in his entire life.
I just see him as like delusional for half a second before he gets his brain blown out.
For me, I'm like he's like his character is not one to be modeled by anybody. Obviously,
Right.
he's in a really like it's understandable that he's around people that are just as bad, if not worse, than he is. Right. The movie is full of selfish people.
And these are the kinds of movies that I have trouble watching where there's not really anyone to root for. There's not really a good guy.
I will
and
say
a
I
bad guy.
did
It's
like
more
Ricky.
I mean, yeah,
I
Ricky
did
was-
actually like
Ricky was
Ricky
like
was
this
maybe the only
creepy-
character
He
that
was
I
like a
actually was
creepy
like,
robot
all right.
man.
No, I
Did
didn't
you see
mind
his
Ricky.
facial
I
expressions?
didn't mind
I think he's supposed to
Ricky.
be like that.
I
Yeah.
actually enjoyed
He was
Ricky.
a creepy robot man.
I mean, but I think even that, like
Ricky had, although he was objectively creepy,
He's
he
objectively
had the best heart of everybody in the
Oh,
movie.
God.
He did. He had the best heart of everyone in the movie. And I know that, like, pretentiously, maybe that's what they were trying to do because you said it maybe just a
Right.
reflection of the director.
Which is
But
why he was
I will
always
say
naked.
Ricky was, of all the issues I have in this
Okay.
movie, Ricky was not one
all
of
of the
them.
characters have the potential to be good if you took away certain aspects. Ricky, if he wasn't filming people taking their clothes off through his windows, he'd be a fine character. But
Okay,
you throw
I
that.
think I
was
actually
only
think
doing
all
that
the
with
other
his
characters
girlfriend,
don't have the potential to be good.
He also
What?
filmed her dad naked, and he filmed her before she was his girlfriend. And he really, if
Right,
you want
but
to
she
think
wasn't
about
taking
it,
her clothes off. I mean, yeah,
I would
her
argue that
friend
the other
was in-
characters did not have potential to be good.
yeah,
I don't think they did at all. Like I think
kind of
Ricky
agree with you,
actually
yeah.
had like
I think he was supposed to be good in the movie.
Yes,
I think.
and obviously he had his flaws, but like, I think Ricky
So why do you think he interacted with his dad in the way that he did?
I mean, his dad was like a deplorable human being.
So why did he keep agreeing with him and saying, "You're right, Dad. I need to just get better. I need to get better"?
I think it was probably easier for him to do that. But then you see at the end where he did like blow up when he got accused of being gay with Kevin Spacey. He did blow up
I'm
on
the
him.
best piece of ass in 3 states.
Yeah, good scene.
Well, that was he saw because his dad was like, "I'd rather have you out of the house."
Yeah, he said,
Then
"Oh,
I think he-
go."
And so
I
he's
mean,
like,
I think
he
he
saw
also-
his out. That was his out. That was
Right.
his way out of the house.
Something we
was
didn't
just,
mention.
He was just resigned to living.
Yeah.
because he mentioned like they locked him up
That's
in,
actually a really
in
good
Bedlam.
point. Yeah.
And so that's why
and,
he
like, the
capitalized
mom-
on that, and then got Kevin Spacey
The
killed.
state
Yeah.
of his mom was something we haven't mentioned yet.
Such
Like
a
I'm
great-
pretty sure like the fact that she was in that state made a lot of things very difficult for Ricky, and probably made it easier for him to just go along with
It
his
kind of
dad
left that a
until he
lot
couldn't.
in the dark of like there's something wrong with the mom, but they don't actually.
But
yeah,
see,
I think you can't develop too many characters. to a
right.
certain
But I
point.
think to Greg's point, I think what makes Lester like slightly, what's the word, like
redeemable.
Well, I guess like throughout the movie is that like I think if he just didn't he could have been like if he hadn't tried anything, he could have ended up like the mom. I don't even know her name. Colonel Fitz's wife. Like he could have just been this like dead prisoner who was just
I think she was
not-
depicted that way to emphasize the point at the end that you're like, oh, like he's gay. He gives his wife no attention, and she's also just numb to the fact that now she's married to this crazy guy.
right.
Really, I got the impression that she had some sort of memory loss. Or
I
something
also
like
did.
That.
I thought she was. I thought
that
she
was
had like a
that was
mental
the
disorder.
impression I got was that
Well,
she
I
had
think
some
it-
sort of disorder, and because she was like she didn't remember something.
like
or she-
dementia.
yeah.
I thought she had. Like,
I think it
thought
was-
she was
I
a
thought it was the-
vegetable.
I
Yeah.
think she was just supposed to be. It was just kind of supposed to show like how little of a life. Like she just had no. She basically had no life.
She had
Like,
no
again,
say over.
I think they had to
her own
introduce.
life.
They had to have
all-
a character where you weren't sitting there at the end looking at Chris Cooper going, "Oh no, he's got a healthy relationship with it, married to his wife."
Yeah,
you could
probably.
look at it and go, "Oh, that checks out," because him and his wife, I'm assuming, have no relationship at all. She just sits there. She's a corpse, essentially,
Exactly,
regardless
right.
of whether she actually has memory loss problems.
I
or
don't
not,
even think it matters.
Or if she's
Right,
just
I think
yeah,
she
right.
serves
I don't
the
think
same
the movie
purpose.
really cares. They're
Yeah.
just saying,
Exactly, I
"Hey,
agree.
this is somebody who is affected so badly by this."
Yeah, I'd agree.
But yeah, I mean, I'm more with Nathaniel in the sense that I don't find any of the characters to be characters I'd want to be like. I think that Ricky
But-
is extremely unhealthy in a lot of ways.
Well, they're all unhealthy, but
Right.
of all the unhealthy
Okay.
ones, he
I
may be
don't-
the least
I don't-
unhealthy.
I don't think that you're
Maybe
supposed. I don't think that
the
you're sup-
daughter probably
Of all the
no,
psychos
she's
in
bad
all
too.
the
Daughter
suburbs.
sucks. Daughter wants to kill her dad.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Just
But
sake.
I don't think that you need to like love any of the characters to love the movie. I don't think you have to like.
I think I'm okay with that.
yeah,
That sentiment.
I think that's almost.
I think I need to love a character in order
Yeah.
to want to watch a movie again.
I don't.
Because a
I don't
movie full
necessarily
of
agree
characters
with
that I
that.
don't like. It's one of the reasons that I don't like Arrested Development, even though I think the writing is very good.
Oh well,
it's
that's
one of the
where
reasons
you'll
that
lose me.
I
'cause
don't
that's
like.
one of the funniest shows
Right.
ever.
That
Right,
was
but I think it's
but-
very funny.
and I
But
think it's the
I
same
don't
thing.
like watching it because I don't like any of the characters.
okay, that's
Same
a fair
thing with It's
take.
Always
Yes.
Sunny. I don't
I
like watching It's
disagree
Always Sunny because I think
with
all
it,
the
but-
characters
gosh,
are
that's
sickle.
another great.
Yeah. So
oh.
and The Office, I just don't like those shows because I don't like.
What
any
about
of the
Dumb and
characters.
Dumber?
Oh, I despise that movie. You knew that though.
Well,
Well, that
this
was
is not
actually-
where we
yeah.
see eye to eye.
That was actually one of my questions. Is can you make a like? Well, I know you can make a technical good movie, but exactly what Nathaniel said. Like, what do you guys think about movies that don't have characters that are redeemable?
Don't
Like,
care.
Yeah, don't
really
care at
doesn't
all.
Almost
bother
don't
you?
care.
No,
Almost
because
don't care.
I think-
How can you make a? See, I'm full team Nathaniel here on this one. Where so this is my problem with. So this is me getting into like the big problem I have with this movie. I actually don't think this is a terrible movie. I wasn't watching it like, oh, like this is just there's nothing good about it. It's a very well made movie. The acting is good, and actually the characters are compelling. Although I would say none of them are redeemable. They're all pretty bad. But for me, the overall message of the story is the most important part about everything. And for me, it just falls flat on its face. And I'm like, I don't even like whatever message you're pushing. I think at the time, it's an interesting concept. I agree with Evan where it's like, when it came out at that period of time, it was probably really fascinating. Whereas now, I just don't like that message at all. But I think that runs through your characters, that if you had a character ultimately be redeemed and at the end of the movie be like, oh, this is actually what we're trying to say. It was really messy to look at, but now we're at the end, and now we're to what everybody points to and says, this is actually right, this is good. Whereas the movie doesn't even want to. If there is a good, if there is an overall good in the movie is telling you it's what you find beautiful. Like,
Yeah,
and if
but
you're not living into that, then you're
still
going to be
disagree,
unhappy.
though. I still disagree because I think
I mean,
that
that is the
no,
message of the movie.
But it's so clear that you can care about deplorable things. I think that's why that's why they had to have something so gross as an old man pursuing a high school girl sexually, because like they had to have something so deplorable that it's not just like, oh, but it's whatever you want. Like, you're so clearly supposed to think that's disgusting, and like it's supposed to make you uncomfortable.
But then
I feel like nowadays Kevin Spacey's just straight up the good guy, though. That's the problem. I feel like where we're at with society now.
Well, I mean, maybe, but I think that speaks to like your
Society,
own.
yeah.
I mean, I think if you watch this movie and think, and you're not disgusted by that,
yes,
like
no, no,
that's
I-
like
that's
that's a
the-
huge
yes,
that's
problem.
you
your
should
problem.
be.
I agree.
I agree, and
So
we
here's
should-
my question. So, taking away the merits of the movie, good or bad, there are plenty of movies that I've watched and been like, that was an excellent movie. I never want to see it again.
Mm-hmm.
And this would fall into that category where I thought it was a good movie, but I never want to watch it again. So what makes you a movie like this where there's no one to root for, kind of a depressing ending movie? What makes you go back to that?
Well, let me make a statement on the character part of.
Okay,
If
yeah.
you don't have characters to root for, or whatever.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever seen Sopranos?
Yeah.
No.
I think it's the greatest TV show of all time. Tony Soprano is a horrible human being. Breaking Bad,
Don't like
one of the
those
greatest
movies.
TV shows ever.
I totally agree.
Couldn't
with
get
you
Not
into
there.
good, not
Totally
like
agree with you
almost
there.
no one to root for. Jesse kind of, but like
Couldn't get into it.
I feel just as impacted seeing characters that I can like as seeing characters that I can be like, oh, that's
I'm not
that's
saying
what
it's
not
not
to do.
impactful. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
I
I'm
think
just saying.
that,
I
yeah.
never want to go. I'm not saying like once I've watched it, I have no desire
Well,
to ever
listen,
go watch it.
and I
again.
want to say
Right.
that I feel the same way about this movie, but I'm saying a greater statement about
to correct-
characters in general.
right.
I don't think you need to like me personally. I don't think you need to have characters to rah for
Right.
to really appreciate.
I guess is the
I-
difference
I
between
think it's-
optimists and pessimists is that I need the movie to have some note of hope in it, or I don't find any merit in watching it more than once.
Well, that's what
But
we
I
talked
think
about
that's-
last week
Yes.
too, about with like dark movies like Seven,
Right.
where it's like you don't like those movies. I do.
Well, there
I
is-
don't need the light at the end of the tunnel.
And we did think about that for a
But
little
there-
while.
but
I think
there is.
there's a difference between a movie like Seven that is the movie Seven is a crime investigatory mystery thriller, right?
Yeah.
And so you're trying to find out who is the one doing this and can
It was
we
Kevin
stop him?
Spacey.
And it was
It's
Kevin
always
Spacey.
Kevin Spacey.
It's Kevin Spacey.
finding the through line.
That's
and
true. That's right.
At the
I
very
forgot
at the
about
very
that.
end, his whole plan of like killing people using thematically the seven deadly sins, so taking a very obese person and killing him via
Making
way
him-
of
yeah,
sloth, like making him
yeah.
eat until he dies, and finding the sex worker and making her have sex with this weird sex like
Knife.
clothing thing
Knife
that stabs
dildo.
her and kills her. Anyways, so he's doing all this, and you're like, oh my gosh. The interesting part of that movie is what is he going to do for all these things? Like, how is he going to accomplish that? That becomes the interesting point. And can these two detectives stop them? So in a movie like that, I'm less concerned with even the development. What was Morgan Freeman's development in that movie? You probably don't know. I don't really know. I couldn't tell you. That's not the point of the movie at all. But this is a drama about characters
He
developing.
went from a cop with a partner to a cop with no partner.
Right. But I mean, well, he got arrested at the end, and who knows if they actually, convicted him or anything. I don't know. But my point being, there are movies that specifically revolve around a thing where it's like, we're not trying to really develop characters here. Like it's mainly about the story. Like you're not interested really in the characters.
I mean,
whereas this movie is
they're really like, if you break it down, there are three parts to any fiction. There's the story, there's the plot, there's the characters, and there's the world. And you don't necessarily have to focus on all three of this. Like this one, there was no world building because it's 90s suburban America.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I
So-
think that is the world.
Right, that is the world, but they
you
didn't have to
could-
it's
do
already
anything.
built.
Yeah,
It's already built. Okay, right,
like,
right, okay.
they don't have to put any time into that, and so
Right,
it was
okay.
all about. So this movie was all about the characters,
In the plot.
and the plot is, as far as the plot goes, there's not much plot.
Right.
It's mostly about the characters,
Right, right.
whereas Seven is much more about the plot.
Okay.
But-
I
but-
think
That
that
makes sense.
But
Yeah,
I think,
that
but I
makes
think to Liam's point, in some ways, even I think one of the reasons I like this movie is that you don't like. It's almost like a warning. Like you don't need. To me. So what was your question about?
What makes you go back and want to watch it again?
Like to me, I could watch this movie once a week because to me, this makes me like. To me, like it's like a warning about what you value in life, and I think like.
But what is its message about what you value in life, and like what? Because I think you're making it sound like that moment at the end. I agree. Emotionally, the emotional beats of the movie definitely at that end said, "Oh, he loves his wife and kids, and now he's killed."
No.
My point being. The movie doesn't really say that though.
No, I know, but it's like it's too late for him at the end. And that's why it's like pointing at you. It's like
It's the takeaway. Don't make it too late.
yeah, don't make it too late. It's like don't go do these stupid things that all these characters like. Look at them like that because
Don't
because,
wait. Have sex with a high school girl today. Just kidding, Evan. I'm kidding. Clip. You take that out of context, I will punch you.
but
Greg has all the power to clip that.
I have so much power here.
you do that,
you should have never said that.
That will put our friendship on ice, my friend.
It's gonna become a sound bite. Just.
but no. But
just kidding. Proceed.
But in all reality, I think like there's not supposed to be a character you're like, you know, that you find redeemable. It's like, and partially I think it's because that's what people saw, you know, in themselves and around them, and it was like reevaluate what you care about, reevaluate what your values are, like, and to me like, it's like, you have nights where. Like for me, where like I'm up all through the night, like, and my daughter is just like crying and won't go to sleep, and I'm just like, but I have a daughter, and like, I get to like stay up all night and like try and get her to go to sleep, and like, I could be so frustrated that I'm so tired, but like, or like literally like the night I finished that movie, my daughter was up all through the night, and I was like, but I have a daughter that I get to love, and like, as hard as this is, like that part of that movie was like, oh, I could be upset about it, or I could look at the beauty and like.
Well, you see, like I love that. I mean, hearing you talk about that was better than the movie, in my opinion. Like far better. It's amazing. But like I have admiration for you because you're a dad, right? And I know that that's hard work. But I'm not sitting here going. Like it's almost like I hope that you see that, and I'm super happy for you that you can have those realizations of being like, man, I have a daughter and that's amazing. But ultimately, like you're putting in that work even when it's not great, even when it's not like.
Well, yeah,
even,
right.
And in reality, I think the more admirable thing is for you to say, this isn't about my happiness.
No, I know, but
this is about something else.
But it's just like when you're in those, like no parent is like excited when their kid is up at 3 a.m. and they're
sure,
like, oh my gosh, like.
You could even say it might even be primarily primarily the work and the duty part of it, whereas
right.
like the fun love part might even be the in between points.
Right, but what I think is like it like part of what the movie's saying is like you can find beauty in what we think about as the mundane. Like Kevin Spacey didn't have to blow things up to find beauty. He tried to because he wanted to have sex with this high schooler, but he didn't have to. And like he realizes that after he's dead and it's too late, and that's why it's like, oh, but you don't have to. Like because you watch the movie.
I see what you're saying.
I guess
that's why to me it's so powerful.
I think the real issue is he married the wrong woman.
I mean, but I don't think so because like
I think he makes a good point in the sense that like. So if the whole point of the movie is that Kevin Spacey really had everything, he had a wife and a kid.
I would be more impacted if like he actually like the wife was like really caring and like
right, and
like then he started like messing up, and then the wife started to get real distant. Like I'd probably care more about like his family relationship.
Yeah, I think like if it had shown like if it had really like gone back into like their early relationship, but like
yeah,
they have those small moments where he's like, what about that girl who used to flash helicopters and like I don't know, fake strokes at frat parties. Like you kind of get the sense that like she was a different person.
I'm sure at one point they were.
Yeah,
healthy.
and like
Yeah,
I don't know. I
think
just
that's
kind of feel
fair.
like
Kind of sounds like he'd married someone who wasn't that healthy.
or
I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt.
it's just
You remember when we would both film each other naked through the windows and we would run away together and kill our parents? She's like, oh my gosh. And now we're boring. We should go do that again.
but
Wasn't that the plot of Gone Girl?
But I do think though that even at the end, I think one of the most agreed upon like profound scenes is at the end when Carolyn goes up after she sees him dead and hugs his clothes. You do get the sense that like she cared about him so much that like that scene is so powerful.
Okay, let's
let's
call
talk
out
about
that
that
scene
scene
because I
because-
didn't get that vibe.
No, that's,
Why the clothes? I didn't really understand.
That
it.
is clearly showing that she's tied to the materialistic.
That's
and
what I
that's her
got from
problem.
that,
Like,
too.
and it's
No?
highlighting
Oh, I didn't think so at all.
like I don't think the movie is trying at all to say that they had a healthy relationship or that they both really loved each other. I think Kevin Spacey
don't either. I
at
don't
the
either.
end, Kevin Spacey
Can I
at the
give my
end.
opinion on that scene?
Yeah, sure.
I think she just had a screw loose. She was about to kill her husband, and then she comes on and finds her husband dead and was just freaking out.
Yeah.
Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
Partially, yeah, but to your point, I agree. I don't think it's saying that they were ever that they ever had a healthy relationship. I just think it's saying that they could have. I think that's all it's like. I don't think like almost everything in the movie I think is supposed to be messed up, but you're supposed to see at the very end how it could have been if they would have all been different. And that's why it's like, well, they couldn't have been, but you can. Like that's what I feel like the whole movie is. It's like their relationship was awful, it sucked, but it didn't have to be that way. Like she didn't have to care about the couch. Like they could have had sex and like but she was too worried about the beer spilling on the couch. Like but if she wouldn't have,
right?
Who knows what that would have changed? Like,
That's fair. But I guess I would say I still disagree with the aspect of what they think would have solved that, which was just living more into what you think,
Wow.
like not being, because the whole idea is that you're being affected by something outside of yourself that's changing what you actually find
yeah.
beautiful, and
But
that's
I
a
don't-
problem. Like it's
I
a
don't-
problem in
I don't think it
every
ever-
case. What?
I don't think it ever like. Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, I guess I kind of see what you're saying of like it's just kind of whatever. I guess I kind of see what you're saying about like the subjectivity of beauty, but I also feel like Ricky's character. There's an aspect of like finding beauty in like what's around you, and that it's not just like whatever you want it to be. It's almost.
Well, I
He
mean,
finds-
I thought that was his whole point, was the plastic bag, and he was like, there was something beautiful about this, even though
Right.
it looks like nothing. There's beauty to be found here.
Right.
Yeah, but
Because-
he
because
said,
I think
he intentionally says that about dead people, and then he looks at dead Kevin Spacey with his brains on the wall, and he's like,
Yeah,
"This is not a healthy guy." Like
yeah,
in the
no,
movie,
I don't think he's supposed
He's
to.
not
be.
supposed to be.
no,
Yeah, he's not-
I'm sorry. I think the movie wants you to believe that he sees the world just how he thinks the world should be, and then that's actually the healthiest way to be.
Well, I don't.
That's what the movie's screaming at you. That's why you can walk away like Liam and be like, I kind of liked him, because the movie really wants you to like him.
I like
I
Ricky.
mean, yeah.
Take it
I-
from me.
I
Take it
think-
from me.
So
That's what the movie is trying to do.
I really think,
I like Ricky.
just going back over it in my head, and again, I watched it today, so I really think there was a tie-in with the mom having some sort of memory problem, because Ricky mentions that like he's taking video to capture moments so he can remember them, and I feel like there's a tie-in with his mom, and like maybe his mom has some sort of dementia, and he's.
That was
thinking
my
he's gonna
read.
get too-
That was
my
my read.
reading of it.
I don't. I mean, maybe. Maybe.
And they just didn't. They didn't lean into that or say anything
Right,
overtly. So
right.
that's what I gleaned from the very small conversations.
To me,
tidbits.
I think it was more like he's filmed like it's less like it's less the like gay couple like, oh, they're doing what's inside them. He's looking at just life. Like he's like beauty's not coming from within him. beauty's coming from what's around him, whether it's a plastic bag or
Dead people with brains.
the dead homeless person,
Naked people
or
who
the
don't
dead.
know he's filming.
There
them.
are three
don't know.
different.
I
There are three different
Naked
examples
people
of
who do know
dead
he's
people
filming
that
them.
he finds beautiful. There's the dead bloodied bird that he's looking at and smiling. Then he talks about the dead homeless person, and then he sees dead Kevin Spacey, and you get this idea that he finds that beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're supposed to get the sense that he finds beauty in like everything, which
Right. This is why he's crying
so
and saying,
much beauty.
"There's so much beauty."
I mean, I think by far Ricky is the reason a lot of people don't like the movie.
Yeah.
In terms of like it being
He's actually
too-
the only reason. He's the only kernel of good I found in the movie.
Liam
Well, I
loves
think,
the guy.
I think Ricky is the most like pretentious. I think that's why
For
a lot
sure.
of people
I think
don't
it's
like
fair,
the
yeah.
movie.
I think he does show it. Like I liked.
I think his character feels the least human. Like in a way,
Yeah.
like the way he talks feels very off. Except in those moments where he's interacting with his
I don't
dad.
know.
But-
I think
but
the
I
other
think it's-
characters are pretty one-dimensional and
Sure.
feel not human either. Like Angela's just a
Bimbo, how many high school
she's a,
students?
I didn't
have
say
known?
it. You
Like,
said it.
Look,
She's a projection
I-
of like
I will just
slutty
say-
trope. Like they
Sure.
seem like
Right.
tropes.
sure,
Yeah, there are-
but
yeah,
Ricky
right.
doesn't necessarily
she's
seem like a
throwing on a
trope.
facade.
Maybe that's
Yeah,
what
I
I'm saying.
suppose.
But I do think like
He is
even
kind of a trope of the introvert weird guy who films
I was going to say,
everything.
Yeah.
like, he fell very in line to. I could picture a director, a writer, sitting there watching a bag float in the wind and be like, "Oh, it's beautiful. Let's write a character that thinks it's beautiful, make him awesome." And,
but
Well, that's
and
what
he-
they did.
but
We
I-
know
and
that.
he
it's
can have
exactly
sex with a
what
high school
and this-
girl.
this is-
But at the end of the day, would your life be better if you could see beauty in a bag floating around? Like that's
Ask
all
the sea
I think.
turtles.
So I think
We're
I would jump
environmentally friendly.
into I would jump into the realistic.
How dare you?
I would jump away for a second from the movie into real life and go, if any of you guys met Ricky, you'd hide your kids from him. Like he's
Totally.
you could look
Hide
at
your
him
kids,
in the-
hide your wife,
in
and
the
hide your
context of a
husband.
movie, and in the context of a movie, I think it looks flashy to be like, oh, look at this, he thinks everything's. But you actually go and meet this person, you'd be like, that's actually unhealthy. Like you probably should.
Well, everyone in this
He's
movie
not-
was
yeah.
unhealthy.
I'm just saying he's
I
the
don't-
lesser of evils.
Yeah, I don't
That's
think
all
I
the- all
don't.
I'm
I
saying.
think
I
if
agree
anything,
with
no trial,
he's-
no nothing.
In some ways, he's supposed to be kind of like the shining, like in some ways, the shining light. But I don't think of him in that way, and I think partially like, I mean, I think the one scene is important where where she asks him about like what was it like being in the hospital, and he kind of goes through his backstory, and he does say like he was going to kill that kid.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I don't think he's supposed to be like.
I don't think any
really-
of the characters in the movie are supposed to be role models.
Yeah, and I think that one scene is important, and I think the kind of the way he acts like robotic is because he they said he left him in the hospital for drugged up for 2 years, and like he probably has
Yeah.
I think like he's supposed to be messed up too.
So I think that this is the reason why he acts the way he acts, and this is why Nathaniel pointed out, like, this is why he talks like a robot. This is why he's virtually no social skills, right? He walks up and he's like, "Hi, I'm sorry. I know I was filming you the other day, but it wasn't because of those things." And like it is intentional. But I think the movie takes you through this journey where it's saying, "Oh, he actually sees the world how it should be," right? Like it asks the question that you asked, where it's like, "Wouldn't you love to see beauty in a bag floating around?" And I actually don't. Like I think that you should probably act with more tact as a person and say, "Hey, that's a
Greg,
bag."
you just don't get it.
That's a bag floating around, and like there are beautiful things. And if you could tell me why the bag floating around is beautiful, there might be an interesting story. Did the bag like float away from like a funeral home where you just watched a man cry over his father, and then the bag had something written on it, and like there's a compelling story.
Greg, you've lost me.
He does describe it.
Are you not creative? You can't imagine that. I thought you were the creative one.
know.
of this
I'm
podcast.
lost. I don't understand where you're going.
But like what I'm my point being, if you're going to be pretentious about a bag floating around,
be more pretentious.
No, I'm saying at least
Double that.
try to do something with it, right?
Oh,
Like
I
it's
see.
not
Does.
it's not the bag itself that's beautiful. Like you can't convince me of that. Like
No,
you
no,
can't be
but-
like,
but-
oh, you see how the red dances with the wind. It's like, I'm sorry, like you would be all of us would think he's crazy.
I totally disagree. I feel like it's just like poetry versus prose. Like if you go into like read a poem, a lot of it doesn't like make sense. Like,
Okay,
off
but
the
there's
bat.
also
But
good poetry and there's
yes,
bad poetry.
Yes, there are
Right.
rules, and this is I think, and
I
this
can't
is,
tell the difference.
But a lot of poetry,
Free verse is nonsense.
a lot of it is subjective, and I think that
Well,
this is my
and
point.
I think that's one of the lines is there is subjectivity in how you experience things, but I think there's also objectivity in what actually is
Right.
beautiful. And there's a reason why, like in music, there's certain chords where it sounds wrong when you end on that chord because
Right.
you need a resolution because there's an objective standard to how
I think
it functions.
That's a really good example because as a counter question, I would say, what if somebody came up and just played terrible music on the piano and was like, "I find it beautiful"? You'd be like, "Well, no,
No,
that's
but-
terrible music."
but there's also entire
people like terrible music, unfortunately.
I mean, yeah, there's I can't remember his name.
Country music.
No,
I guess just like I say this
God.
because like I obviously I think I land more on that side having learned more about film and working in it, whereas I sorry I knew
Here we go.
I was like
Here we go.
like
Pretentious.
my whole point is that I'm not like the whole point is like you learn about the finer points of movie making and you're like, oh, it's fine to like whatever movie you want at all, like that's 100% good, it's great, go and like a bad movie, but there is a separate conversation to be had talking about, is the movie good or bad? Do you like it? Do you think it's good or bad? That's fine. That's all you. But then, is it actually good or bad? That conversation actually exists. And it exists
Yeah, but
because
you
I have
can't-
to work to make better ones or worse ones. Well, I'm always working to make them better. But my whole point is like, if that doesn't exist, then everything that I do doesn't make any sense. Then I could go to my clients and be like, hey, this is a really shitty video.
Well,
But I thought that it looked like a bag floating in a wind, and I think it's beautiful. And they're supposed to be like, you know what? Everybody should like it then.
So
no,
you're-
I'm like,
okay.
no, there are objective
So you're
points.
saying there's a quadrant. It's
Yeah.
you're like actually good, right?
but that's not. There's
Sorry.
you like the movie,
Okay.
actually a good movie.
Yes. Yeah, there you go. There
So
you go.
where does 7 fall into that? Good movie, you don't like it.
No. I never said I didn't like 7.
I thought you said that's
Excuse
not
me,
your
it's
kind of movie.
pronounced.
And I'm just using 7 as a reference point
Sure.
because I am curious about like
I mean, this
the
quad.
good versus bad discussion.
That's
that
actually
does
actually
exist.
not a bad chart to
No,
have of
I
personal
to-
enjoyment versus like actual quality.
That's what I'm saying. I think
What does
they
that
would
mean?
probably
What does that
fit
mean, though?
into.
There is no objective like.
Like, I
there-
would
this
say
is a-
Godfather.
And the thing is, there is
a
objective
good movie,
quality to
don't love
film,
Yes.
and you can evaluate in different ways. Like you can talk about cinematography. Are things framed appropriately? And
Sure,
now there's
but, like,
something
when
to be
it
said
comes
about
to, like,
experimental
plot
stuff.
and, like,
But when it comes to
character
plot
development,
and character
you
development, it's you look for consistency and like,
Yes, there are-
a consistent internal logic. I think is really important, which this movie had. This movie had a consistent internal logic. So I think this is a well written, well
Yes,
acted movie.
this is why I said the characters in this movie are well written
But-
because they act how you would expect that character. Like when Ricky's introduced, it's not like at the end he's all of a sudden acting like not a weirdo, right? Like he's acting like that kind of weird, kooky, I find beauty and everything throughout the whole movie, and this is what this is why scenes where a bunch of so we just went through the Oceans movies, right, which are just very fun, like Oceans Oceans 11, 12, and 13.
Both the Ocean's 11s were great. Oceans 12 and 13 are fine, and then Ocean's 8 we're sitting here looking at
Ocean's
like
8. That
this
was rough.
wasn't made for us.
Ghostbusters
But
2016.
It wasn't that bad.
To
It
get
was
to
not
my
that
point
bad.
before I forget it, it's
Ghostbusters.
like
Oh
some
my
of the fun, some of the most enjoyable points of those movies are like, I think of the second one, Ocean's 12, where they're getting together going, okay, we have to give all of our money back, so what did you guys do with your money? And each character gets to talk about like what they've been doing with their money and why they have less or more, and you get to hear it and you're going, oh, this is funny because I know him from the first movie, and that checks out. That's what he would do, because one of the guys is like, well, I'm still living with my mother, so I have all the money still. Like he hasn't spent any of it. And one guy's like, well, I actually owe more than what we stole because I invested in hotels. And one guy's like, well, I spent $1,000, like, you know,
And
$1
then
million
Ruben's
of it.
like, I made $30 million
Yeah.
because I know how to play stock market. You chumps. It's not that hard.
and then you have like Matt Damon, who's just like, well, I've spent $1 million, but it was all for development and you know, like I'm learning, I'm getting better at stuff, and they all kind of roll their eyes. So you have like all those characters are acting how they've established to act, and that is why it's enjoyable to watch. So I would say that objectively, that's a well written scene because characters are acting naturally how they would act, and it gets really you would say that a character is poorly written when you have, and we're going to use our favorite movie to demonstrate as a bad movie, which is The Last Jedi, where you have Luke Skywalker be introduced, and all of a sudden he is not at all like he was in the other movies. And then you go, okay, this is the writer's job. Tell me how he became this way, because he was super hopeful before, and now he is a hermit and he hates everybody. And they're like, oh, he had a dream once about his nephew. And then I get to burst into the room and say, that's terrible character writing.
Okay, but,
objectively, it's not good.
But I guess like what like. I guess.
What is the point?
To me, that objective quadrant doesn't mean anything, because like you can have
it means everything.
But you can have like a well-written movie that like the characters are consistent, but it's still like
so boring. Sure,
it's still boring. It's still stupid.
Yeah,
or
sure.
There's an objective.
Third quadrant,
there's an objective called there might be a z-axis. Yeah,
I feel like there has to be
Three-dimensional
some function.
It's the
Can we write this out?
It's the sphere. Yeah. I mean, we could talk about it. The point is that I'm going to put words in Greg's mouth.
Sure.
The point is that the movie seems to be pushing for a subjective interpretation of reality, where it's like beauty is what you want it to be, or you got to find what you find to be beautiful.
I strongly disagree with that,
which is fine. But that's clear. I mean, that's the message that like Hollywood is today. Is like you got to live your truth. I mean, that's just like the world's message. You got to live your truth. And what Greg is saying is that in everything, in every even artistic endeavor where there is a lot of subjectivity in what you personally prefer, there are objective standards to what is beautiful and what is not beautiful, and there are objective standards to what is a well-crafted movie versus what is a poorly crafted movie. Not that necessarily impinges on whether you enjoy a movie or not.
But part of what I think this movie is getting at is that like, looking at everyday things around you, that like, so like there's no like you can't tell me objectively a bag floating around in the air isn't beautiful. It might not be to you.
It depends on your environmental view.
What do you mean?
Could be littering.
Bad for the environment.
I mean, you can still.
Did he pick it up? Does he even care?
Does he recycle?
I mean, in some ways, like thinking or like taking abstract art or something like that. Like it's
garbage. Throw it in the trash.
But okay, what you're saying, Evan, is that. So are you saying that he's right for thinking that way? That he's actually more right than a person that doesn't see it? Because I think you're kind of framing it like, isn't that a better way to feel, that you think that is beautiful? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I'm. I think all I'm saying is I think all that scene is kind of getting at is that wouldn't your life be better if you could see beauty in the mundane things around you? I don't think it's supposed to be like.
I think that's less.
Beauty is whatever you want it to be. I think it's what if you could look at what's around you and see beauty in the thing, and I think that's, and again, in some ways that's the antithesis of what Lester's doing, and like you don't need to blow everything up. Beauty is already around you.
I think,
which I think is
that's a different lesson than what we're actually arguing about.
Yeah,
that's what I think the point of the movie is.
I feel what you're saying is Lester is so focused on this, what he sees as this external point of beauty, that he's missing everything around him.
Exactly, and I think that's why you can't say the movie is about subjective beauties, because like what he subjectively thinks is so clearly wrong, and like that's why they had to make it something so deplorable. It's like it's so clearly not like.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. I got you.
Yeah, and I think and like again at the end, I think like it's saying like, well, yeah, it's too late. He didn't realize it, and I think like that's where like that like the camera's pointing towards you then.
I got it.
He's
saying that what you're saying, Greg, is true, and that the movie's saying that that's a bad thing. That saying that it's all just subjective is the bad thing, and that the movie is portraying it as the bad thing.
How is the movie portraying that as a bad thing?
Because
I'm lost.
The bag is clearly the most gripping point of the whole movie.
What do you mean?
Well, focus on Lester. Forget about Ricky. Forget about Ricky for a minute.
Focus
on
I'm
Lester.
sorry, Ricky is the more compelling.
No,
okay,
listen.
That's fine.
So the bag. Carolyn and Jane are to Lester what the bag is to Ricky.
Okay.
He couldn't look around. He couldn't look at what he had, and like. Why Lester was so drawn to Ricky is because he found beauty in what was around him. And he didn't get that until the very end. He was attracted to also like, smoking weed and like music and like videos, the other stuff
Sure.
they had in common. But what really like at his core drew him to him was that he found beauty in what was around him, and he didn't ultimately get to that until the end. But why it's saying it's not subjective is because throughout the movie you see like what Lester thought was beautiful was the girl, and that's clearly wrong. Like it's clearly saying it's not just whatever you want.
Yeah, but didn't you just say that you just gave a subjective example? You said Ricky thinks the bag is beautiful. He thinks his family is beautiful.
No,
They're both right for following those things.
No, he's saying that he's missing the objective beauty that's nearby him.
Right. It's like what's around you. Like it's basically just saying. It's
So
like,
how did Ricky show that when Ricky has no scale of objective beauty at all?
No.
Because a bag is objectively not beautiful. That's the whole point of that scene. Is that most people would say that that's not beautiful. We can at least agree on that.
No, right. It's not.
Because the beauty that's around you, which is kind of like what you keep saying, is very subjective. I mean, the beauty that's around me right now is very different than the beauty that's around me in other points in my life. But the beauty that was around him at the moment was a floating bag, and he thought that was beautiful. I think everybody can agree that we're all looking at it from the outside in. Nobody was like, finally, somebody gets it like I get it. Right? We're all outside in that scene.
This is why I don't think the like subjective objective quadrant is like helpful in this context, is because I think it's saying it's not just whatever you want it to be. Like there are like it's not giving like though this is the right answer, but it's just saying find beauty in what's in like. I think this is why it's so great, is that because it doesn't give a right answer, but it shows the wrong answer in some ways. It kind of leaves it open ended as to like how the characters' lives could have been better or what they could have valued. It doesn't say like, oh, they should have done this one thing, because clearly what Lester is really the only one who like. Well, I guess maybe Carolyn. Like they're the only ones who really are pursuing like this specific thing, and it's just wrong. That's why I don't think it's saying like, oh, it's whatever you want it to be. It's saying there are things that are beautiful, but it's. I mean, I don't know.
I'm willing to think that I might be wrong on that point, but there is actually somebody who had a pretty strong opinion on this. Jakob actually, he gave me another call.
Great.
Yeah, no, so he called in.
He would like this movie.
Yeah, no,
got
for
a
all the wrong
caller.
reasons. So yeah, so he called in and
My least favorite part of the week.
yesterday. So he was very excited about what was going on, and he called me. I purposely didn't pick up. Sorry, Jakob, if you're watching. And he was just telling me.
We know he doesn't.
I have his number blocked.
You're telling me how excited he was about this show coming up, and so without further ado, I will be playing Jakob's message to our little show here.
Well, I mean, what more is there to say? I have never been more excited for one of your shows than I am right now. I mean, this movie is more than just a movie, it's truth. Like, the scene with the kid and the bag, and I think either he or the girl was naked, but oh my gosh, it just touched me so much. I think most movies would be improved by having one or both of these characters appear at least once wearing absolutely nothing. I nearly spilled my vegan, gluten-free, soy-based, nutrient-rich, non-racist, gender-affirming latte all over the adult coloring book I was working on when I saw that scene. So I just wanted to call to thank you again for inviting Ivan on the show. If he wasn't just another white guy, I would say he should always pick the movie. But he is, so please don't. Back to crying and watching The View.
The View. Oh man, I'm kind of glad I don't agree with Jakob on a lot of things.
He really loved the movie, man, and he was happy that he wants more movies like that. I guess I don't know.
You want to hear my biggest issue?
Yeah, give us to kind of wrap up here. Let's give us a nitpick for each of us to say, hey, I think they could have done this better.
Do you know what this won Best Picture over?
Fight Club.
Sixth Sense, Green Mile. 3 all-time movies. Green Mile is one of my top 5 movies ever.
I will say the book ending for Fight Club is better.
The fact that it won over those.
The thing is, like,
hurts.
I know Green Mile is like one of your top 5 or something, and Fight Club
And
is like
what?
my top 3. And
But-
so
yeah.
that is bad.
It hurts.
I
It
don't
hurts.
see how you can not. I don't see how you can like Fight Club and not this movie. I feel like there's so
I actually
many,
so
there's so many.
you know what this movie
similarities.
reminds me of?
Because
It
Fight
reminds me
Club
of
has more
Club.
testosterone.
Well, right.
There is a lot of similarities for
right.
sure. Yeah, you ever see Office Space?
No.
Have you ever seen Office Space?
Yes.
I've fully
This
seen the
movie
printer
reminded me of
scene.
Office Space. Like all the corporate scenes in this
Yes.
movie reminded me a lot of Office
Yeah.
Space. But Office Space had the humor. It's like I don't know. I was watching. I was like, they're all three of them very similar. I would take Fight Club and Office Space over American Beauty.
I mean, I think, yeah. Honestly,
personally.
I'm looking back.
But the thing is, like, of those movies, I think Green Mile maybe and American Beauty are definitely the Oscar bait. Like, they're the more filmy films, if that makes
Well,
sense.
Green
The
Mile
more
was based
artsy
on a book.
films.
Yeah.
But yes, I sure,
Like, it's like
sure.
Fight Club's like a little bit of a jock movie. It's not intentionally
Yeah.
a jock movie.
It's a bros movie for sure.
But it definitely has a feel of a bros movie. Office Space is a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Sixth Sense is like a horror thriller. So I think Green Mile is like a more serious.
It's a good year for film.
I just
The
American
90s
Beauty is
90s
like
was a great
American
decade.
Beauty is like
Oh,
such a
wow.
clear. This will play well at the Oscars movie.
So Nathaniel,
Sure.
give me a nitpick.
Man, I can't pick out any clear I loved it or any clear I hated it, other than the general like malaise I felt watching the movie.
Yeah.
Did I?
There wasn't. I'm gonna be honest. There wasn't really. I will say. Okay. The scene where he catches his wife in the drive-through.
That's
Great. That was my
and-
favorite
and
scene.
Such a good scene.
That was my
And
favorite
and
scene.
the manager's like
store manager.
busted.
And
I
he's
like the dinner scenes too. I thought the
dude,
dinner
those-
scenes were
those are
really
so
fun,
good,
like
yeah.
very comedic.
He's like,
someone
well,
pass these
I
burgers?"
quit my job and I blackmailed my boss for $60,000. How was your day? They're all just staring at
He's
him.
like, I think we're gonna rotate the music.
I'm sick of this
dinner.
Lawrence Welk shit.
I did like that scene too.
Yeah.
Pick.
What
I
about
don't
you, Evan?
know.
If you had to take a nitpick, what are some things about this movie you think
Yeah.
might have worked better, if any?
I think the way I think I think you're completely right. Whereas as the like Ricky is a stand-in for like the author, and I think for that reason they made him like too likable. I think if they had made him a little bit less likable, the movie would have been so much better.
Yeah.
I think he's a little bit too redeemable. I think if they had played up his kind of like
Psychotic edge.
yeah, if they had made him a little bit crazier, I think the
Right.
movie would have been so much better. I mean, it's still one of my favorite movies, and I don't think, like, to me, I didn't. Yeah, I would say just Ricky's character development would be a nitpick.
Yeah, and I feel like, I mean, other than the really icky part that, I mean, in all honesty, should tank the entire movie, the fact that there is like a 16, 17-year-old girl naked in the movie and then I have to watch it, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I should never watch this again, and then that should probably be the move. So that alone is almost like hey, let's either not talk about that ever, or like that should be the biggest problem with it. But taking that aside, it's funny. It's like almost like hearing your depiction of the movie. I think that would have been a better movie, but I think that if that was what they were trying to do, they needed to do a better job of like. And again, I think just hearing you talk about Ricky too, that might have been the biggest problem, is that they tried to make Ricky the arbiter of truth in the movie, to say everybody is being enlightened by him, right? He's already got whatever it is that everybody else is trying to figure it out. He's already got it figured out, and everybody else is starting to learn. That throws me off and makes me think, well, then but his truth is so much different than the way that Lester sees things, and so the whole pointing is definitely to subjectivity, because it's saying that he's right, and if you want to say that Kevin Spacey is right at all, it has to be an objection to what he thinks is like it has to be well, you think that's beautiful, I think this is beautiful. But I think that there's a possibility that I have that wrong, and that they were really trying to say that Ricky was also just a crazy bad guy too. It didn't feel like that's what they were trying to say. It felt like, but anyways, so
Yeah.
my nitpick would be that along what we talked about, the characters, in my opinion, just aren't very redeemable, and didn't do a great job telling what I think could have been a good story. And I like
Yeah.
hearing you talk about it.
Well, apparently the original ending was supposed to have the death being blamed on Ricky and Jane.
Yeah, there was like a trial scene. There was a trial scene with Ricky and Jane.
And the helicopter shot was supposed to be him floating over the town after he died. It's really weird. And
There's a
then
trial
they
scene.
changed it.
Yeah, they deleted
like
it. They cut it
the
out.
first
so instead
shot,
of leaving it just kind of
you call it a
ambiguous,
drone shot now, where
Really?
it comes into the neighborhood.
Oh,
That shot where he's just narrating, he's like, "I die," and like before
Yeah.
the year's over, like that was supposed to be him flying initially after he died. That's why the shots were taken, and they ended up using him just for the intro instead.
wait,
So-
wait. What do you mean? They do that at
like
the end
show his
too?
body floating.
Yes, like he was actually
Oh.
going to be floating away. Like this is supposed to be him floating
Oh.
over his town and
Yeah,
like
I'm-
going into different
Well, I'm
places.
glad they didn't do that.
Yeah, oh my
Yeah,
God.
That was a good edit.
That would have been weird.
All right, so we'd like to end the show in a really funny way. We'd like to give our guests an opportunity to fill out a Mad Lib. So Liam is going to help you fill out the Mad Lib, and
I'll
then
fill it out.
okay. Well, I
you wanna fill it out
I
and then I'll
figured
read
you
it?
like reading it, so I have Liam.
Yeah,
be
you
the,
read.
You like the reader guy. Like you do
You
that
just
read
in
the
a really
boxes.
funny
You're good
way.
at read.
Just read the
I'm
box
gonna
and fill in above.
I'm gonna do an American Beauty theme dance.
Yeah, do
So-
it. Oh, oh boy, this is gonna get interesting. I didn't pick this Mad Lib, by the way. I think DQ did.
It's one from I have a Mad Lib book and I just forgot to bring it. So.
Don't look.
Evan, give me a plural noun.
You're gonna need to be
Can't-
faster than this.
Give me two plural
Just
nouns.
run through it.
Cameras,
Cameras and
And
weights.
Bags. Everything is plastic
Weights.
bag
I
for
can't,
everything.
I can't read it.
name a person in the room.
Lester. or a character in the movie.
oh, you can just do yeah. You can just do
Yeah,
person.
Lester. We'll go with Lester.
Name a noun.
A noun.
Non-plural.
bagging.
Singular now.
Pot.
Nice. Adjective.
Baggish.
Stop, Greg.
What is the the
I'm-
bag? I was like, what? Why do you keep saying bag?
Trying to think of stuff in the movie. We'll go with deplorable. I can't think of it. I
Deplorable
can't
is
think of
pretty good.
I-
It's a pretty good adjective.
I'm trying to think of. I'm trying to think of like there's
Noun.
one-liner.
Name another noun.
King.
Adjective.
Oh, the king. He was a funny character.
Majestic.
The king. Adjective again.
Beautiful.
Plural noun.
He's gonna say it.
Oh, I'm not gonna say. Roses.
There it is.
Part of the body.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say that.
This is
Come
a layup. This is a
We'll go
layup.
with feet.
Oh, belly button. Come on.
Oh, that's what.
Plural,
sitting there.
plural noun.
Plural noun.
Belly buttons.
Cheeseburgers. Oh, this is a long
Happy
one.
burger, right?
It's
yeah,
it's
happy
it's
burger.
one page, but I
This is
wrote
a
it. I had to write
novel.
it double spaced.
Okay.
Adjective.
Sexy.
Noun.
Nathaniel, what's the theme of this?
I'm not gonna say. I'm not gonna say.
I'll look up music for you.
Queen.
I'll say as soon as he's done. filling it out.
Adjective.
Okay, I'll go wait till he's done.
Bad.
Part of the body. Plural.
Belly buttons.
Plural noun.
Jobs.
Noun and a person.
Noun and a person.
Noun, person.
Ricky, I'll go with for the person.
Okay.
Chair for the noun.
Number.
7.
Plural body part.
It's a lot of body parts.
Belly
Yeah.
buttons.
Please be as lewd as
We
you
already
want.
said belly buttons.
Yeah, we'll go with hands.
Boring.
We had an opportunity to go
You can do
real
internal
blue.
organs.
Don't go blue on us. All right, it's done.
Should have gone blue on us.
All right, give me 1 second to find some music.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure on the guest.
Yeah.
I don't even know what an adjective is half the time.
I like how you did some of it in all caps and some of it not.
It takes longer. It takes longer to write in all caps.
Let's just do.
We didn't tell Evan the goal of this is to write a movie and film a movie based on one of these Mad Libs.
It would be a short
This
film.
is the one.
By the
Short
way,
film.
the
This is
theme
the
was a
one.
tour of Hollywood.
Yeah, I'm trying to find music to really do Hollywood.
You really should have picked more obscene body parts. It would have been much funnier.
How would we short film that though? It could get real
Right.
dicey.
All right, so we are gonna have Nathaniel. I'm gonna set you up with the. Oh no, that's for me. Nathaniel, speaking to your.
Hey, check, 1,
There
2.
you go. All right.
Megaphone.
All right, you get the megaphone voice. We are now reading the Mad Lib that
We.
Evan has created for us. This is called a tour
Tour of Hollywood, or something like that. Good morning, ladies and cameras, boys and weights. My name is Lester. I am your personal pot guide. For the next 6 hours, we will delight in exploring romantic, deplorable Hollywood and the glamour king of the world. Let's start off with a bang and visit Grauman's Majestic Theater, Hollywood's most beautiful tourist attraction. You're killing me here, Small. This actually works. You'll see etched in the cement foot roses and feet prints
Oh my God.
of the most famous movie cheeseburgers ever to adorn the sexy screen. Then it's only a hop, skip, and a queen to Beverly Hills, the playground of the rich and bad. You will feast your belly buttons on the $1 million jobs of movie stars. You'll actually get to visit the home of today's hottest chair, Ricky, who will sign autographs for the low sum of $7 each. And here's the big one. For lunch, we'll be going to a studio commissary where you can rub hands with today's leading actors and actresses. All aboard! Choo-choo!
It'd be a really straightforward short film.
I definitely could have gone.
It'd be really
more
straightforward.
man.
That's
out
easy
of
to
the
film, though.
box there.
It's easy to film.
That
That's unfortunately what
You're
we
so
that was
good at- you're good at
unfortunately
reading.
really,
Yeah,
really well
that's-
done.
That's not the short film I thought it was going to be.
That was
just like,
one that would be really
okay.
hard to film, but also it would be really easy because all of those things are right. It's like, oh no, we're gonna go see the
Majestic
footprints. And I'm
Hollywood.
like, yeah,
There's no
majestic,
CGI.
sexy
We
Hollywood.
wouldn't
I'm like,
need any
yeah,
CGI
well,
for that one.
it all checks out.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
surprisingly good.
Yeah.
Well, gang, Evan. We are glad you
Glad
guys
you joined
showed
us.
up.
Glad you
Glad
came.
you
It was-
guys
it was
tuned
fun.
in. That was a fun show.
I will say, this is exactly what we wanted. It's a movie I never would have watched.
Kevin
Yes.
Spacey got acquitted of all those
Weird charges, though.
weird charges, by the way.
Did he?
Yeah, he did.
Good for him. I'm
Just
glad,
wanted to call it out.
I'm glad. I'm glad that's
Listen,
the case.
only a couple people know what truly happened, but he did get acquitted. I'm just saying.
Innocent until proven guilty. I'm just
judicial
saying.
system.
I'm just saying. He does play a creepy psycho really well.
Yeah, he does.
He does.
He does.
He pulls off a creepy pedophile
He's
pretty
so
well.
good. He's so
Just
good.
saying.
He's one of the best actors of our
pretty good.
lifetime.
Well, gang, until next time,
wait.
Evan, we loved having
gotta
you
say what we're
on.
doing next week.
And oh, that's right. So wait, Nathanael is bringing somebody on next week. That is your guest. So,
So I actually had to ask a few people. I had some people cut out on me. So we're going to be having Juan Rodriguez.
let's go.
He will be joining us. And he hadn't decided. He gave me two options, and he said he couldn't decide. So maybe we'll have a twofer. We could honestly do a twofer. with
Let's
these two
hear.
movies.
Let's hear what they
So
are.
the first one is Fantastic Mr. Fox,
Never seen it.
Oh,
Never seen it.
Great movie.
Phenomenal
Okay.
movie.
Great movie.
Phenomenal movie.
and the second one is Shrek 2.
No.
Okay.
Let's do Fantastic Mr. Fox.
I think we're gonna watch Fantastic Mr. Fox.
And Shrek 2. Let's just do both.
We can watch that on our
And
own
how
time.
long are we gonna have to take to spend on
Well,
Shrek
if you're
2?
watching, go ahead and watch Fantastic Mr. Fox first, and then if you have time, watch Shrek 2. We might talk
You'll
about
have time.
both of them.
You'll have time. It's not a long movie.
But we're
Shrek 2 is
excited you
pretty-
guys
are you guys
joined
hating
us.
on Shrek 2?
Make
Okay,
sure-
I'm
Which
gonna
one's
tell
that one?
Juan.
Which one's just Shrek 2?
The second one.
That's with Prince Charming.
is that the one with
So-
Shrek and
Fiona's in that one, right?
It's
That's
the
Puss
one.
in Boots.
It's the one
Puss
where
in
he
Boots.
becomes a human and then
Puss in
he
Boots,
yeah.
first appearance.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well,
Shrek 2 is a good one.
I'm
Shrek
in.
2 is actually good.
gang.
I was thinking of Shrek
It's
3,
all-
probably.
Probably. Shrek 3 I've never watched, but I've heard it's not good.
Or the one with the kids. Is that Shrek 4?
Yeah, it's probably Shrek 3 or 4.
They have kids.
Yeah, they have a bunch of
What do you
kid
think they
ogres.
do?
I don't
They're
know,
married.
man. I don't know, man. I think that's
It's
weird.
it's beautiful.
They're ogres.
Yeah,
I guess beauty's
ogres
subjective.
can't have
though, right?
sex?
Beauty's subjective, right?
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks for coming, Evan.
We should let Evan and then all three of us just show.
You know what we should do?